morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio, and today I might have to admit that I was wrong. You see, we've been talking about these new promo Evolution GXs, and I told you in no uncertain terms that I thought Vaporeon was the worst of them. I didn't think Vaporeon was very good. Now, these were released on Thursday, I believe Thursday, and just 2 days later, yeah, it turns out in a winning list, might have been today, might have been 3 days later, but certainly the weekend it was released, there is a winning list with Vaporeon, and of course, if we add that to the Jolteon deck from the other day, it means the only one that hasn't won a tournament, at least that I've heard about, the weekend of release, is Flareon, which of course is the one I said was the best, boo, hiss, etc. Now, these were released in a kind of lottery system. These were not the easiest ones to get hold of, so getting multiple Vaporeon in and of itself, not the easiest thing to do in Japan this weekend. But I suppose at this stage we should remind ourselves exactly what it is that Vaporeon does. Now, I will say we've got the Energy Evolution Eevee, and that is absolutely huge. You attach your water energy to Eevee, you can then search your deck for a Vaporeon and just evolve it straight up. But you know what's weird, right? Vaporeon doesn't have a single energy attack. There is no single energy attack on Vaporeon. So it doesn't have that same turn 1 oomph that we saw on Jolteon, for instance. It's got the nice turn 1 attack, which is literally just Buzzwole's Jet Punch. No, ladies and gentlemen, no turn 1 attack. What we do have is a really nice ability that says once during your turn you may heal 30 from your active water Pokemon. So in theory here you get multiple Vaporeon out and then you can heal 60, 90, whatever from the active Pokemon during your turn. That gives you a little bit of tanking. Now, it's not the only thing Vaporeon does, of course. Obviously, I'll put my Vaporeon video, I'll pop a link to it in the description. The main attack here, for free colourless energy, says that you do 40 damage, plus 30 more for each water energy attached to this Pokemon. So that's 130 for free energy, and to be fair, 130 will get stuff like Buzzwole, like Granbull, etc. So it is a moderately relevant amount of damage. And then 1 water energy, a really quite nice GX attack, which just heals all damage from all of your water Pokemon. It's just complete healing, which can sometimes really pull you out of a bind. It is not a card that on the face of it looks particularly interesting. But in this list, and I should mention the list did come from the lovely Code64 over on Twitter, who else at this stage, and all of our translations come from the lovely David Hockman, who is lovely. We also play Glaceon, and now, ladies and gentlemen, now it seems to be starting to fall into place. Glaceon also doesn't have a turn 1 attack, it doesn't have a single energy attack, but what it does have is an ability whereby your opponent's EX and GX Pokemon cannot use any abilities, just so long as it's in the active. You still can, your Vaporeon is fine, but your opponent gets no EX, no GX abilities. And if you get this going on the first turn of the game, you can get it in the active and your opponent never has abilities. Tapu Lele? No, they don't get that. There's no Lycanroc and Bloodthirsty Eyes. There's no Decidueye. You're rolling quite nicely indeed. But we do have to attack with something, and I suppose we're attacking with Glaceon here. Free energy, water double colourless, although this deck does not play any double colourless energy, you'll see why in a moment. 90 to the active, 30 to 1 at a bench. It's not a stunning attack, but actually here, it's good enough, bearing in mind that you're healing 60 damage a turn as long as you get 2 Vaporeon out, and that you're turning off abilities of GX Pokemon and slowing your opponent down. And that's largely how this deck works. You've just got Glaceon in the active attacking. I should mention a GX attack does 50 damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active. So obviously you Frost Bullet a couple of times, then you can one-hit KO anything. It's up to you to decide if you want the big hit with Glaceon or the healing with Vaporeon. So you sit there in the active, blocking abilities, and then you can hit decent damage with Glaceon while healing it with Vaporeon. But there are a couple of other Pokemon we need here that basically make this into a functioning, viable deck. First of all, we have Quagsire. Quagsire lets you move energy from your bench Pokemon to your active, any water energy. And what's amazing here is you can attach a water energy to Eevee to evolve it into Vaporeon, then move it into the active to attack with Glaceon. What's interesting here is that this plays a free line of Quagsire. Now, if you're just using it for the ability, you really don't want to go more than 2-2. Clearly, this is an attacker, and it's a decent non-GX attacker. 60 damage plus 20 for each water energy attached to it. You can attack with this. This is your non-GX attacker. Clearly, against some decks, you're only ever going to attack with Glaceon because you need it in the active, but this is a nice non-GX attacker nonetheless. We see a free line of Naganadel, and the Naganadel Quagsire combo shouldn't be too unfamiliar to too many of you. Naganadel's ability gets an energy from the discard and attaches it, and then Quagsire moves it into the active. And then we play a couple of Manaphy from Shining Legends, and Manaphy from Shining Legends says that once during your turn, you may heal 20 damage from one of your Pokemon with a water energy attached to it. Now that's actually relevant because it means that if you retreat here and keep a water energy on, you can then start healing. You don't have to heal the active. So frankly, ladies and gentlemen, this is awesome. We sit in the active with Glaceon, blocking our opponents from using abilities. We heal with Vaporeon and Manaphy, and we get the energy on with Naganadel Quagsire. Clearly, the bench here is going to be a little bit of an issue. In some games, you're just going to sit there healing, and with 2 Manaphy, 2 Vaporeon, right, that's 100 damage per turn. In some games, you're going to go full healing. In other games, you're going to want to accelerate a lot of energy and smash with either Vaporeon or Quagsire. This deck has a couple different options, and I kind of love it. Now, oh yeah, and there's one Tapu Lele to get your supporter card. It's Tapu Lele, ladies and gentlemen. Now, in terms of trainer cards here, there's a lot that we would expect. But there's also a couple of defensive cards. We've got muscle dumbbells, bodybuilding dumbbells as it's called over here. Gives 40 more HP to a stage 1 Pokemon. Well, any Pokemon you're attacking with here is a stage 1. So that's pretty sweet. It gives you extra bulk. And one choice helmet, which reduces damage done to the Pokemon it's attached to by 30. And the rule is simple. If they're trying to one-hit KO you, you want muscle dumbbells for the extra 40. If, however, they're not, if they're 2-hit KOing you, then Choice Helmet is going to do more in the long run. I mean, let's say for argument's sake you're against something like a Zoroark. They'll hit you for 120. That will be reduced down to 90 because of Choice Helmet. You can heal that off and be invincible against Zoroark. That's how cool this can be. And between the Manaphy, the Vaporeon, the Choice Helmet, and the Muscle Dumbbells, bodybuilding dumbbells, this is a very, very defensive deck indeed. The only other slightly odd one here is Ingo and Emmett. Now this is just played as a bit of a draw supporter, but it's one we've not had released here yet. You look at the top card of your deck, and then you either draw 5 cards from the top or 5 cards from the bottom. Essentially here, if you don't know that you're going to draw the right card from the top, then actually drawing 5 from the bottom is better mostly because you're drawing 5 cards you don't know rather than 4. But if the next card on your deck is the one you need, you can draw from the top. It's kind of fun. And everything else is largely what we'd expect. 3 Lily and 4 Cynthia because they are the standard draw cards that we see in the Pokemon trading card game at the moment. They are the ones that people use. We see 2 copies of Guzma to drag Pokemon into the active and KO them. That's pretty gosh darned important. We see 2 Rescue Stretcher to recover Pokemon. And then we see 4 Nest Ball and 4 Ultra Ball to actually search them out and get them rolling, which is quite important here. A lot of the time, if you can get your Eevee and your Water Energy, you're rolling. I didn't buy Vaporeon as a really viable Pokemon. I didn't think it was particularly good. I was surprised by how good this deck actually was, and it's purely defensive. Now, you can smash with both Quagsire and Vaporeon, but really here you need to get so many energy that it's not always viable. But between turning off abilities, preventing damage and healing, this is a deck with a whole bunch of staying power. But ladies and gentlemen, this is a point in the video where I want to hear from you lovely ladies and gentlemen. So let me know in the comment section what you think about this. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule. Be nice, would ya? I love seeing that these Eevee decks are winning super quickly. I want to know what you think. And then, of course, make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.